House will come back to order. This House will come back to order. The clerk will ring the bell. All right, we're going back to work here. The clerk will read the caption to a group of privilege resolutions.
Recognizing and commending Fantasia Barrino. Recognizing and honoring Greece in the coordinated effort of Hellenes on the sacred occasion of Greek Independence Day. Recognizing and commending Jacob Dillard. Recognizing and commending Cornell L. Harvey. Honoring the life and memory of Margaret Clisby Power Flowers. Recognizing and commending Bishop C.D. Gearing, Jr. That completes the reading of privilege resolutions.
Is there objection to the adoption of the privilege resolutions? The chair hears none and the resolutions are adopted. Chair recognizes the chairman of the House Education Committee, Chairman Coleman, for an evening order. Chairman Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, I'd like to apologize to the House and to Representative Morgan for the way I earlier asked her a question. You know, I feel bad about it, but I realize that sometime in the heat of the moment, we tend to do things that we regret. And the 40th day creates a lot of problems, so I'd like to do that, and I ask you to forgive me.
All right, this House will come to order. House will come to order. We've got a couple of evening orders that we're going to take up, and I want members of the House to give attention and respect to the members in the well. The chair recognizes Representative Ellis Black for an evening order. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was somewhat reluctant to do this, but I had a couple of fellows that gave me some serious threats that said I had better come down here and give you a few words of wisdom. But I've got to start off by sharing a little story with you that goes back to an old legendary storyteller from Echoes County. And he told about 3 women down there that loved to go fishing on the Arapahoe River, particularly when the river got low and the brim were bedding on them sand beds down there. And the banks of that river was about 20 foot tall, and they couldn't climb down the banks, but they could get out there in the flatwoods. There was a little gully that drained the flatwoods, and it wasn't but about knee deep out there, about 300 yards from the river, and it just got deeper and deeper. But it was real narrow, just was wide enough for them to get down there going single file. Them ladies had got down there fishing one day, and about time they got the hooks throwed in the water, one of them looked over on the other side, and there was a bear. And she screamed, "There's a bear!" And the others hollered, and they all went to squealing, and they broke, and they run for the gully to get out from down there. And all that hollering and squealing got the bear excited, and he wanted to get out from down there too. So the only way for him to get out was up that gully, just like them women, so he fell in behind them. And the lady that was running the slowest was the last one to get the ditch. She looked back over her shoulder, and she saw that bear, and she decided them 2 in front of her wasn't running as fast as she wanted to run, so she just went climbing right over the top of them. And then there was another behind, and all of a sudden she looked back and saw that bear, and she decided she could run faster than them other 2, so she just went right over the top of them. And them 3 ladies played leap the frog all the way up that gully, coming out from that river. Now, I've used that story a number of times. It's telling about how it's sort of like life. Sometimes you be ahead and somebody just come leapfrogging right over the top of you. And sometimes you get behind, but when you got the right motivation, you can leap over the biggest obstacle there is. Folks, I come of age, I'll get back to that a little later, but I come of age in a day and time when folks in Georgia voted different than they do today. In fact, when I was young, the white people voted almost exclusively Democrats. And the black people in Georgia that voted, and we had some areas like Lowndes County where I live, that there never was any attempt to keep the blacks from registered to vote, and we had a good many blacks voting in Lowndes County. And most of them had been recruited by the few white Republicans there, and they had voter drives every year. And they voted just as solidly Republicans as they do Democrat today. And I can well remember my folks damning those liberal Republicans from New York, like Nelson Rockefeller. And a pivotal point in my life came in 1962 when I was a sophomore at the University of Georgia. And a fellow by the name of Senator Barry Goldwater came there, and he spoke about being a conservative. And in that day and time, that was considered a derogatory term. But I sat and listened to him, and that made sense to me. And I bought into that philosophy. And I watched this state as it went through a major transition. And I want you to envision what it would take to cause as many people to reverse their party affiliations and what it would take to do that. And I've heard people say that, well, I've always been a Republican or I've always been a Democrat. Well, I tell you this, if that's the case, you ain't very old, or else your political philosophy has not been very stable, because I witnessed the change that has occurred in the political parties of both political parties of this state. And during all of this transition, there's been a lot of political fortunes that have ebbed and flowed. And I've seen some people get leaped over, and I've seen some people come back from nowhere. The one thing that I have witnessed over time is there's been some people that whenever their political fortunes collapsed, they just moved on. But there's been others that have stayed around and rebuilt, and they've been able to leapfrog and come back. And these people that have hung in there have become heroes of mine. And I can't leave you today without pointing out and recognizing some heroes of mine that's in this room. Folks like Ben Harbin, that was Appropriations Chairman in a prior administration, and Earl Earhart, that was a Rules Chairman. And of course, now he didn't fall off the cliff. He ended up in a situation where he might be happier in a more pleasant situation now than what he was then. But we got Barry Fleming that come in here a term after I did, and the second term he was majority whip and had a real career going, and then all of a sudden he decides to run for Congress, and things didn't work out too good for him. So he's back up here now getting started over. And across the aisle, look at the dean of this house had risen to the position of Rules Chairman, and then the Democrats lost control. And he's hung in here. In the last 6 years, the governor in the state of Georgia has used him as an ambassador to Washington in the Democratic administration up there. And also there's another lady I'd like to point out that started over in the Senate, made a run for lieutenant governor, didn't work out, then she got elected to the House just in time to see the Democrats lose control. And if you hadn't served on a committee with Mary Margaret Olive, you cannot possibly appreciate the influence that lady has had on the legislation that this body has passed. But ladies and gentlemen, the biggest leapfrogger of all started out in the Senate as well. Made a run for Attorney General. That didn't work out, and then he ran for the House. Got in here and and was recognized and got appointed to one of the judiciary chairmen, and he was on top, and then all of a sudden he made a run against the speaker, and that didn't work out. He sat right back over there. I've sat in the same seats ever since I've been up here, and for one term, I sat back there and watched the people in this house come in and avoid him. Wouldn't make eye contact. People in the Republican caucus, people that I know had supported him for speaker, was afraid to be seen talking to the man. And I said, he had lost his committee chairmanship and he was back over in the LOB, but I know that didn't hurt him like having to sit over here and be ignored like I saw going on. But, you know, George was fortunate in that the demons that had possessed Glenn Richardson in less than a year's time brought his speakership down, and we had a new speaker race, and today we have that man as our speaker. And so I leave you today and honor these people that are my heroes, and I'll tell you this, that if things work out the way that I hope to do, next year you'll have an old Barry Goldwater conservative across the hall that'll be your friend, and we'll be here to work with you. God bless y'all. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Martin for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, at this time, I move that the House insist on its position on Senate Bill 288 and that a committee of conference be appointed.
Chairman Martin has moved that the House insist on its position on Senate Bill 288 and that a committee of conference be appointed. The clerk will read the caption.
Senate Bill 288 by Senator Bethel, 54th. To amend Part 14 of Article 6, Chapter 2, Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to certain programs and activities under the Quality Basic Education Act.
Is there objection to the motion? Is there objection? The chair hears none. This House has insisted, and the committee of conference will be appointed. The chair appoints Representative Martin from the 49th, Representative Jones from the 47th, and Representative Dudgeon from the 25th as a committee of conference on Senate Bill 288. Chair recognizes for an evening order Representative Alicia Thomas Morgan. Representative Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a moment that is bittersweet for me. I look around this house and I think about the 12 years that I've been here, and I know many of you don't realize that I have been here for 12 years. And I realize that Thank you, James Beverly. I love you for that. I realize that some of the most important moments of my life I have experienced with some of you in this room, whether it was getting married, having Layla, or going through a divorce. And so it is a powerful moment for me to come and say farewell. I want to begin by thanking the great staff who help us every single day, from the clerk's office, the speaker's office, security guards and state patrolmen and women, the administrative assistants. Sheila Rainey was my first administrative assistant, and Jackie Hicks, who's held it down for me for the last few years, and all of the other administrative assistants who are often nameless, but do so much work, and over the years have offered me smiles, hugs, and words of encouragement, because they watch what we do in here, and they notice the things that we say and what we do. And so I'm grateful for their work and all that they do to make sure that we are successful. I'm grateful for the friends that I've made in this room, and I'm going to name some of them. It doesn't mean that those of you who are also friends, I don't love you as well, but I've got to particularly thank folks like Mike Glanton and Josh Clark, Jimmy Pruitt, Mark Hamilton, Simone Bell, LaDon Jones, who have been great friends to me over the last few years. To my sorors, Carolyn Hughley and Nikki Randall, who took me in when I first arrived, and even over the many disagreements we've had on policy, you've continued to treat me in a sisterly way. I leave these last two people. First is Earl Earhart. And many would be surprised that I would name Earl Earhart as one of my very best friends in this house. And I want to share this story because I don't even think he knows this. But in 1999, I was a student at Spelman College. I was president of the NAACP chapter. And I led a march of students from the Atlanta University Center here to this state capitol to oppose one of Earl Earhart's bills. I didn't know his name, didn't know he was from a place called Cobb County. I just knew that we had to do whatever it took to kill that bill. And it ended up failing in committee by one vote. And no one would have told me that just 2 years later, 3 years later, I would run and serve with Earl Earhart. No one could have told me that we'd have some of the hardest battles on some of the most difficult issues in this chamber. And I know there was a time that we did not like each other very well. But as I think about the last couple of years, I think about the calls that we've had, the time that you reached out to me when you heard some difficult news. Every time I've ever come to you, you said yes, and here's how I'm gonna help. And so I wanna say thank you publicly. And I'm grateful for you because you gave me a chance and you allowed yourself to get to know me, and I allowed myself to get to know you. And I thank you for that. I saved the best for last, who I don't see in the chamber, but it's Representative Sam Teasley, another one of my very best friends in this chamber. We've been through some very difficult times together, and when I dealt with some challenging times, he was there for me, and I hope he could say I was there for him. And although we have very opposite voting records, I know that there's not a soul in this room who cares more about me than Sam Teasley. And so I'm grateful for his friendship and his support. I also want to say thank you to a couple of other people like Ed Reinders and Willie Talton and John Yates, because these are three people who I had very tumultuous relationships with over the years. But again, they opened their hearts and they got to know me and I got to know them. And I thank you for accepting me for who I am, and I've enjoyed accepting and loving you for who you are. Finally, I have to say thank you to my amazing seatmates. Michael Smith, who is new, but I have enjoyed getting to know and having talks about all kinds of things. Hugh Floyd, when I announced my run for state superintendent, was the only legislator there standing with me, and it's not because others didn't want to be there, but he stood with me and he encourages me and challenges me, and I thank you for your friendship. And so as I begin to close, I just want to say a couple of things. I'm proud of the work that we've been able to do here, and members of my team are up in the gallery, and I have already thanked you, and I want to thank you again publicly. But together, we have brought over 1,000 people to this Capitol to teach them about the process, and so that they can hold me accountable on the issues that are important to them. I'm proud of the work that we've done in education to ensure that every child in this state gets a great education. And we've got more work to do. And even though it's been controversial, I'm also proud of the work that we've done to change the life trajectory of kids in this state because they now have public school choice. And although I still face some consequences from those choices, I have no apologies, and I'm proud to be able to empower kids and families. And I'm also proud of a bill that we passed because of constituents in my district who were faced with a flood in 2009, that because of that law that was passed, anyone in this state who's affected by a federally declared disaster will have help from the state. I've learned some powerful lessons in this chamber, and I hope to pass them on to you. Number one is patience. Everyone knows that if you have a bill that you want to pass, you think it could happen in a year, and sometimes it happens in 2 or 3. And so you learn patience and how to get things done, not maybe in your time or the chairman's time, but sometimes in God's time. I've learned to choose my battles. Those of you who were here 10, 12 years ago, you know that every time there was an issue, I was at this well, and I had a whole lot to say. But I've learned since then to choose my battles, to use my voice when it could be most influential, and to not have to speak on everything. I've learned to live for another day, that although these things are personal and we are passionate about them, that not only do we have to choose our battles, but we have to learn to fight for another day. I learned not to make it personal. If I had known 12 years ago the importance of relationships, and that's not always about the issues, but it's about getting to know people and who they are and why they are, it will help us make much better policy decisions in this room. Mr. Speaker, 2 of the things that I want to suggest and would love to see happen in this chamber. One is a conversation, a discussion that we could have about race, class, and gender. If all of us could sit in a room and talk about our experiences so that we could better understand our values and why we make the decisions that we make. And we'll call that the Teasley-Morgan discussion, because Sam and I have had that discussion many, many times. But I would also like to see an exchange program where we spend time in each other's districts. Can you imagine what it would be like to see Ed Reinders spend the day with Abel Mabel Thomas? Just ponder on that for a moment. But the most powerful lesson that I've learned in this chamber is the power of faith. That when you believe in God, when you believe in the things that are impossible, that He will not only do it for you, but He will make sure you know that it's Him and that you've got to give Him the credit. And so many people will say, why in the world are you leaving? You're in a safe seat and you could be elected for as long as you want. And that's true. I'm very blessed in my district, and people love me because of the work that we've done together. People also have said, why are you running? This is Georgia, and an African American could not win statewide right now. And I've heard that before. I heard it about 13 years ago when I was 22 years old, and I decided that I would run for state representative in Cobb County, of all places. People said that because of my skin color, because of me coming from the NAACP, because Cobb County had never voted for an African American, that it was impossible. But it was people like Calvin Smyrie and Tyrone Brooks who believed in the impossible. And it's why I'm standing here today. And so 12 years later, I am believing in God still and knowing that He can do anything, and I am running for state school superintendent. And this is not a political speech. You all know why I'm running for state school superintendent. But what I know more important than that is that God is good and we can believe in him and impossibilities because he can do anything. And so I leave you with my favorite quote. It's by Dr. Benjamin E. Mays. It says that every person is born into this world to do something distinctive and something unique. And if he or she doesn't do it, it will never be done. Against all the odds, I was born to be Cobb County's first African American state representative. Not a soul in this room was born to do that but me. But I wasn't born to do what you were called to do. And so in this moment, in this 40th day, and when all of you return, just remember why it is that God called you to be in this place at this particular time, to serve the people of Georgia who hold us responsible for doing the right things on their behalf. And I'm going to continue to do what God has called me to do. And my prayer is that this is not goodbye, but this is come and visit me across the street. But thank you for this incredible opportunity to serve with all of you. Finally, I say thank you to the constituents of District 39. I wouldn't be standing here 12 years later without them. I'm grateful for your faith in me and all of the support of the many people who stood with me and worked with me to make District 39 what it is. And I know that if I don't continue to do what God called me to do, it'll never be done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Chairman Knight for a motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that I'm sorry, this is a hard act to follow. I think we recede from our positions and that we agree to the Committee on Conference for the substitute of House Bill 786.
Representative Knight moves that the House adopt the committee conference report for House Bill 786. The clerk will read the conference committee report.
Committee on Conference report on House Bill 786. Committee of Conference on House Bill 786 recommends that both the Senate and the House of Representatives recede from their positions that the attached Committee of Conference substitute to House Bill 786 be adopted. Respectfully submitted for the Senate, Harper the 7th, Jeffries the 17th, Tollison the 20th. For the House of Representatives, Knight of the 130th, Burns the 159th, Roberts the 155th.
Chair recognizes Chairman Knight to explain the Committee of Conference report for House Bill 786.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is really day 40. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, if you will remember, this is the DNR bill that deals with the infant license. And when it left the House, The Senate went over, and I'll direct your attention to lines around 47 of the bill through 54. There was concern over there that just relying on the Georgia driver's license may allow people who are in Georgia legally but were not Georgia citizens to be eligible for this lifetime Georgia sportsman's license. And so what we've gone to do to go back to make sure that we've taken care of those concerns, if you look on line 48, and we've inserted the lines, provided, however, that no license or identification card issued pursuant to Code Section 40-5-21-1 shall satisfy the requirements of this paragraph. In other words, these don't count. And those are simply those driver's licenses that are temporary license issued to people who are in Georgia here legally, but they're not Georgia citizens. And that's all this bill does. So this allows us to provide an easier way for our Georgia citizens to prove that they're here and that they can make it easier so that they can get these Georgia lifetime sportsman's license. Madam Chair, if there's any questions, I will stand for those.
You have a question. The chair recognizes Representative Williams of the 87th for a question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
I will.
Do you have any idea how much money would come into the general budget with this lifetime license, people purchasing from out of state?
That's, to my friend, that's the lifetime license, though, and what we're doing is we're not, that is for Georgia citizens.
Oh, Georgia citizens.
Yeah, yeah, that's the Georgia Sportsman's Lifetime License. So again,
Okay.
That's not what we're trying to do.
So no person outside of state can purchase this license?
No, not in what we're trying to fix right here.
Thank you.
So, Madam Speaker?
You have one more question.
All right, one more.
Chair recognizes Representative Williams of the 168th to your left for a question.
To my friend
Will the gentleman yield?
from the coast.
Yes. This is it not true that this bill was well vetted in game fishing parks, and we think it is a great opportunity for young people to be introduced to the world of sportsmanship.
We do. To my friend, we're always trying to make sure that we're doing new initiatives to make sure that we're recruiting our young people to enjoy our resources of the state. Thank you, sir. Madam Chair, if there are no
more questions,
I'll ask for your support. Thank you.
the gentleman has yielded the well on the adoption of the committee conference report on House Bill 786. All in favor of the adoption of the conference committee report will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the adoption of the conference committee report on House Bill 786. The yeas are 169, the nays are 3. And the committee of conference report is adopted. Chair recognizes Chairman Hatchett for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House insist on its position on Senate Bill 391.
Chairman Hatchett moves that the House insist on its position on Senate Bill 391. Senate Bill 391, which is not on the board yet. Clerk will read the caption.
Senate Bill 391 by Senator Balfour the Ninth to amend Article 1 of Chapter 7 of Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to regulation of hospitals and related institutions.
Chair recognizes Chairman Hatchett to explain his motion.
The Senate chose to disagree with our amended version of Senate Bill 391, and this will make it so they'll establish a conference committee, and we will too. So thank you.
Chairman Hatchett has moved that the House insist on its position on Senate Bill 391. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and the House has insisted on its position on Senate Bill 391. Chair recognizes Representative Wilkerson for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that we adopt Amendment 331494 to House Bill 914.
The representative moves that the House agree to Amendment 331494 to House Bill 914. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 914 by Representative Wilkerson, the 38th, to amend Article 2 of Chapter 5 of Title 49 of the Fiscal Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to child abuse and deprivation records.
Chair recognizes Representative Wilkerson to explain his motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment basically strikes out the language by replacing lines 24 through 72 of an amendment that the Senate had done regarding some privatization of foster care. So we're striking that out and then adding in House Bill 138 by Representative Welch that passed here with bipartisan support. So that's basically all the amendment does, is strike out what the Senate had done and put in there 138 that's got caught up in the process.
Gentleman has a question. The chair recognizes Representative Welch to your left for a question.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, does the gentleman in the well yield?
I do.
Is it not true that the amendment AM 331494 is exactly the same wording that passed out of the House, went over to the Senate, and passed with a bipartisan majority?
That is true. It passed this chamber with bipartisan support, yes.
Will you yield for one more question?
I do.
Is it also not true that this same legislation, that was House Bill 138, also passed out of the Senate Health and Human Services Committee with a favorable recommendation to the Senate floor?
That is correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There are no more questions.
Okay.
Is there any objection to adopting the amendment? The chair hears none. The amendment is adopted. Chair recognizes Representative Wilkinson to explain the bill, his motion.
Thank you. I move that we agree to the Senate substitution to House Bill 914 as amended by the House.
Clerk, will you explain the underlying bill that we're agreeing to?
Okay. The substitute is basically the defects legislation that we had passed overwhelmingly out of the House that requires 2 reports from DFACS to our school counselors, and we've added in 138 as I explained before, so I'll yield to any questions.
There are no questions.
Do my English motion now?
Gentleman has yielded the well.
I yield the well.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute as amended to House Bill 914, all those in favor will vote yes, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the yeas were 166, the nays were 2, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute as amended by the House on House Bill 914. Chair recognizes Chairman Morris for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the House agrees to the Senate substitute to House Bill 772.
Chairman Morris moves that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 772. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 772 by Representative Morris of the 156th to amend Chapter 4, Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to public assistance so as to require drug testing for applicants for food stamps.
Chair recognizes Chairman Morris to explain his motion.
The Senate made a minor change. It's really a technical change. There was no substantive change from the bill from what the House passed, but I would appreciate your favorable consideration to agree to the Senate substitute.
There are no questions. The gentleman has yielded the well. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 772, all those in favor will vote yes, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the gentleman's motion. The yeas were 100, the nays were 67, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 772. Chair recognizes Representative Kelly for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move now that the House agree to the Senate substitute on House Bill 1078.
The representative moves that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1078. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 1078 by Representative Kelly, the 16th, to amend Chapter 12 of Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to juries.
Chair recognizes Representative Kelly to explain his motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The changes here are technical in nature. There was some cleanup language. Just needed the court clerks made some recommendations on how the language should just be a little bit cleaner in the bill. So these are just technical changes that were made on the Senate side, nothing substantive from when it left this House.
There are no questions.
I'll yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well on the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1078. All those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the gentleman's motion. The yeas were 168, the nays were 0, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 1078. Chair recognizes Representative Fleming for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate amendment to House Bill 670.
Representative moves that the House agree to the Senate amendment to House Bill 670. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 670 by Representative Fleming of the 121st to amend Code Section 10-1-490 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the registration of businesses using trade names.
Chair recognizes Representative Fleming to explain his motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members of the House will remember that we passed almost unanimously out of the House House Bill 670, which simply allows our clerks of courts across the state to put online, so our citizens don't have to go down to the courthouse to view court records, trade name registries, one of the last things that we don't have online. The Senate actually made an improvement in the bill with their amendment. They sunset the charge for that, so they have to come back to us in about 5 years to make sure that the program is still going well. I'd be happy to answer any questions, Madam Speaker.
There are no questions.
Thank you. I ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 670.
Gentleman has yielded the well on the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate amendment to House Bill 670. All those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the gentleman's motion. The yeas were 161, the nays were 4, and the House has agreed to the Senate amendment to House Bill 670. Chair recognizes Representative Williamson for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 610.
Representative Williamson moves that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 610. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 610 by Representative Williamson, the 115th, to amend Article 1 of Chapter 23 of Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to agents, agencies, subagents, counselors, and adjusters.
Chair recognizes Representative Williamson to explain his motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate, in their wisdom, at our request, added Representative Howard Maxwell's 849 to our public adjusters bill. They changed no language in the public adjusters bill. They added in its entirety House Bill 849, which this body passed unanimously. In House Bill 849, to refresh your memory, is the excess wear and tear use waivers are not considered insurance contracts. So I would urge your favorable consideration and be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
There are no questions.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 610, all those in favor will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the gentleman's motion. The yeas are 166, the nays are 2. And the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 610. Chair recognizes Chairman Hamilton for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move that the House agree to Senate substitute for House Bill 714.
The gentleman has moved that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 714. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 714 by Representative Hamilton of the 24th, to amend Article 7 of Chapter 8 of Title 34 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to benefits relative to employment security.
Chair recognizes Chairman Hamilton to explain his motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 714 is 714 as we passed it, plus House Bill 1027, which was the unemployment federal compliance bill, word for word, added to 714 in the Senate, and I ask for your favorable consideration of this, Madam Chair, and I'll yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. For what purpose does Representative McLean rise?
I had a question for
Parliamentary inquiry?
Yeah, parliamentary inquiry.
Please state inquiry.
Is it true that the cost shifting of HB 714, all the burden is impacted on the employee?
I'm sure the gentleman knows of what he speaks.
Also, is it true that this bill does not put any burden on the back of the employer?
That's a decision for each and every member to make for himself.
Thank you, ma'am.
For what purpose does Representative Hamilton rise?
Madam Chair, parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that House Bill 714 that we're asking you to agree on is a combination of the original House Bill 714 that passed the House, added to or in conjunction with House Bill 1027, which passed the House almost unanimously?
I'm sure the gentleman knows of which he speaks. For what purpose does Representative Flood rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Madam Speaker, is this amendment on the desk? I believe it's just being passed out. No, I believe I just got it by this gentleman right here who's passing it out.
There's no time constraint.
It's still not even on the desk yet.
As soon as it hits the first desk, it is available for consideration. The first desk, not the last desk.
So the one person could have a substitute, and that would
The
suffice
chair
for
will
everyone?
wait until it is on every desk so that we make sure that each and every member has time to look at it.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
For what purpose does Representative Beasley Teague rise? The lady waves. For what purpose does Representative Coomer rise? He waves. Okay, the chair is going to take up the measure on the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 714. All those in favor will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 107, the nays are 64, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 714.
ugly girl.
Okay, House will come back to order. House will come back to order. All members will please take their seats. This House will come back to order. The chair recognizes for an evening order Representative Chuck Sims. Representative Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, it's bittersweet, I'll admit that. As Lisa Thomas says, it's great to come back down here. This is one of the greatest places I've ever served in my life. I've been serving either my state or my country for 34 years, since I was 22 years old. And it's time to go home. It's time to go home. I want to say thank you to a few folks, and I know there was a bet out here tonight, and you know when I know there's a bet, I want to make sure I'm going to be the one that's win it, but I think Nimmer won it. There is a poem, Mr. Nimmer. I think you won the bet wherever it is. I want to thank because I've had a lot of friends, and I want to just say this first and thank some of the people that, Lord, in 18 years is a hard time to try to remember, but I'm going to go through, and if you're not into poem, please don't hold it against me. I can't make everybody's name rhyme. Deffenbaugh is hard to rhyme, I'm telling you. But I'm going to tell you that I want to say that all the years that I came up here in '96, and some of the folks that really meant a lot to me, and as Ellis Black said back there a while ago, it's hard to name them all. It's just truly hard to name them all. But I'll start with Jimmy Skipper and Jimmy Lord and Lynn Westmoreland and Winfred Dukes and Carolyn Hughley and David Lucas. Mark Burkhalter, Mark Williams, oh yeah, Gator. Glenn Richardson, and Lord, thank you, David Ralston. I could say that now because I'm leaving. You don't know how much you meant to me and how much you stood by me, and I thank you so much for that. All those folks at the hospitality room at the Sheridan, Lord, we've had a lot of stories and a lot of times. Yes, sir, Al Williams. I want to thank Robbie Rivers and Scotty Long and Crystal Pistol Rach from the clerk's office, because if you were ever audits chairman, you knew what that meant. Along with Jessica, Lord, she wrote all those things down. I don't know how in the world she kept up with it. I'm thinking about Wayne Allen and Jeff Lanier, who had to deal with all my bills and say, man, that thing's unconstitutional. Newt Hudson, Bill Lee, if you ever wore a dunce hat, you had to go down there. Calvin Smyre, he didn't make me wear the dunce hat when he was there, but he made me sit in the back. Charlie Smith and Bill Airborne all the way Cummins right over there. Oh man, I don't know. Tommy T-Bone Blueberry Smith. Mike, how's your mama Snow? Cicero Lucas, who went deaf because Speaker Murphy beat his ears to death back there. Wild Bill Jackson, wherever he is over in the Senate. Richard Marable. Pierre Howard. Alan Peake. God, will you please quit bringing local bills from Macon? And let Nikki, okay. Bill Riley. Thank you, Bill, for all the great advice. John Burns, thank you. You're mighty sweet to me, buddy. And your lovely wife. Jay and Jason Shaw. You know, I've been here so long that a father and son team came in here. My old Senator Greg Goggins, Tommy Williams, Lord, he's fought me on those bills about that those logs and that fishing bill. Remember that, Al? Van Street, Joe Wilkerson, with all your helpful advice, thank you. And a fellow named Hugh McNatt, Alan Powell, and these are all my sweet mates, Alan Powell and Tom McCall and Steve Scarlett, Jill Chambers, Matt Ramsey, Jerry Jackson, Mr. Henry Howard, one of the finest men I ever met, Howard Mosby, Uncle Hugh Broom, Lord help us, Carl Rogers, Jay Powell. Thank you, Robin Underwood, wherever you are. You helped me so many times. Uncle Ellis Black, Sean Jernigan, and thank you, Ward Lamb, and this whole house owes him. If you ever had a local bill, it was a Ward that put it together, not me. Don Parsons, thank you. Lord, it's hard. I'm trying to get through it, y'all. Ben Harbin, thank you. And these lobbyists that were out there, I don't know, I can't name them all, but just some of them, and some of them are gone, and some of them are here. Bill Morey and Joe Sports, Jet Tony, Skin Edge, Becky Riles, Meredith Melvin, my middle, don't even ask why that is. She knows. Shay Brown, Robin Harris, Wesley Michelle Dunn, Polly McKinney, Alicia McDonald, Lord. Elizabeth Way, David Pratt, Laura Gamage, Pete Robinson, Becky Burgess, if y'all remember her, Gail Sexton, Butch Benefield, Uncle Billy Fallon, Chandler Hayden, Cindy Shepard, young Fred Kitchens, Joey Wallstrom, Amanda Seals, Ashley Broom, Ellen Williams, no John Clayton, Gordon Rogers and Will Hurst, Janae Burke, Mr. Tom Daniels, Wendy Clifton, Vanessa Sims Green, Scott Draper, Russell King, Bill Golden, Will Ingate, Aubrey Valines. I know I can't name them all, but I'll thank them because they were mighty good to me. And with that, I'm going to give you the last poem. He'll be there. And the name of it's The Last of Murphy's Boys. And I know some of you are going to be here and y'all will remember Mr. Murphy, but if you were never in 292, I'm the last fellow that walked out of there that's still in the house. And this is the way it goes. As I look around this room, oh, the tales that I could tell. As I gaze into your faces from this place they call the well, I have met so many from places near and far, and they bring back so many memories no matter where they are. Where do I start those memories, and how can I tell them all? For 18 years I have perched in that same seat over against the wall. In the fall of '96, I came here brazen, young, and brave, entertaining thoughts of grandeur, because it was this Camelot I craved. I met so many people, and they were so good to me, like Joe Sports and Elmore Thrash. They got me where to be. And the men in the room 292, oh my, what a group that was. To me, be among them was an honor. All of Murphy's boys. And then there was Harry Dixon, Henry Reeves, Earl Anderson, and Slick Eldridge too. Bobby Rowan was our jester. Robert Rickert had some stories too. Marcus Collins served up cheese toast. Butch Benefield and Judge Ellington would hold court. Abbott Massey and Tommy Irvin, Newt Hudson, and Hugh Gillis was there, of course. So the stories and the moments, those coffee mugs with your name, mayors and governors and senators passed by there. Oh, it was a political hall of fame. The laughter and the tales wore out a outhouse broom. We ate so much cheese toast, we didn't have a BM till June. Larry Walker was my mentor, and we've been friends forever. And there was Tim Perry, whose stroke story is still getting better. And there my buddy, Jim Stokes. He came in and he's like my brother. He stuck by me through a thick and thin. Really like no other. Yes, there was also Speaker Murphy, who gave me so much sway. And I knew I didn't deserve it, but he helped me find a way. And my chairman, Terry Coleman, and Tom Buck, and Richard Royal as well, taught me all about legislation. And I can't thank them enough to tell. My seatmates have been wonderful. Tom Shanahan, Butch Parrish, and Jeff Lewis too. John Lunsford, Steve Cash, and Alex Atwood, to name a few. Buddy Harden and Dale Rutledge, Peaches Dickey, and Judge Caldwell. And Lord, don't forget Judy Pogue. Boy, I miss his tales. And my secretaries, Janie Talent, Diana Daniels and Diana Lynn, Talmadge James and Doris Pettyjohn. How'd y'all put up with me then? And Lord help me, my second mama, Lucia Haynes. 9 years, she had me the most. And Jan Brown traded me back to her when I had to leave my post. Speaker Richardson gave me audits where I wrote poems every day. Speaker Ralston gave me local bills to shut me up, some say. Larry O'Neill, you've been good to me. And you, Ben Harbin and Ron Stevens and Jan Jones too. All of y'all, I'm sorry, because I let you down a time or two. I represented the Confederate Breakfast District, House Seat 169. Jeff Davis, coffee and bacon. Those folks, to me, were really fine. And I thank all those local folks in Atkinson County, too. For 2 years less score, I served them all with gusto. I can't leave out my Citadel classmates, for they always had my back. Iceman, Durrani Wilson, Tilt Fred Pete, and Johnny Mack. We all wear the ring, my brothers of a long gray line. Those boys from the class of 80. Yeah, you're always on my mind. And those men with whom I went to war and I fought. When I was given their command, yeah, we went to war together. And for our country, we did stand. And I love them each and every one. And with me, they've always stood in every campaign and election. Man, what a brotherhood. And I can't forget those young folks who also worked for me. Emily, Mackenzie, Laura, and Nell, Ashley, Leanne, Brittany, and Stephanie. And those guys too, Alex, Brandon, Silas, Stephen, and Leo Chancey too. We had fun and we laughed a lot. I will miss all of you. But time has caught up with me, and it's time, I believe. It said that only that you know when it's time to leave. And I've had fun, I've done some work, always tried my best. Now it's time to travel home and put politics to rest. I have a few things just to remind you. This place isn't really real, you know. We do some real things here, however, but it's not for pride and show. Remember, every person counts, from the homeless to the castle. No one's problem is too small, even if it is a hassle. Don't let greed be your master. Money will leave you in the end. Don't exploit your wrath or disaster. Find ways to make amends. Don't get led down a primrose path, guaranteeing you election's grace. The only real things that matter are the folks that sent you to this place. To my family, now I go, who made sacrifices galore. So much I've missed of my children and my mom, who we all adore. Charlie, Vic, and Greer, and my dad Neil, with love, have been with me through it all. A day that I was not a rep, is a day my kids cannot recall. And to all of you in this house and out there in the halls, I will miss all the jokes and laughter and the seriousness of it all. But it's time to say goodbye to this din and all this noise. I love you all from your one true friend. I'm the last of Murphy's boys. God bless you. Thank you very much.
House will be in order. The chair recognizes Representative Ed Lindsay for an evening order. Representative Lindsay.
Before I begin to address you, my friends in this House, I hope that you will allow me for a brief second, a more personal moment, and say goodbye to three very special people in the House Leadership Office, and that's Candace, Brian, and especially Debbie Lynn. I won't say that you made me look good, but you made me look a whole lot better than I ever deserved. I thank you, and I honor you for your public service. This state is a better place because of each of you. For those of you expecting my parting words in this House today to focus on where I'm going or the national issues of the day that have prompted my desire to seek a new political arena, I hope that you will not be too disappointed if instead I too, like the others before me, focus for a few minutes on you, my friends, the members of this great body, and the lessons that you have taught me. While there are certainly many of you who have served longer and accomplished more here, there are very few in this chamber who are in greater awe of the men and women that I have had the honor of serving with for the past 10 years. I ask you to take a moment to reflect and look around, and I really do mean that. Take a moment and look around, even here on day 40. We have a hero of World War II in this chamber. We have a foot soldier in the great fight for civil rights in this chamber. We have doctors, we have lawyers, we have nurses, we have farmers, pharmacists, real estate agents, insurance agents, bankers, well diggers, welders, teachers, even one romance novelist, and business folks of all stripes. We are Georgia. Men and women from across this state who have chosen to set aside our work at home to represent our communities and pursue the common good for all the people of this great state. Together in this chamber, we have confronted the challenges of the day, balancing a budget in tough economic times, the Affordable, or some may call it Unaffordable Care Act, improving education, expanding school choice, redistricting, illegal immigration, human trafficking, spurring economic growth, criminal justice reform, the sanctity of life, property taxes, protecting and respecting our Second Amendment rights, as well as those other rights recognized in our constitutions, ethnic reforms, domestic abuse, water transportation, creating new cities, reducing bloated governments, and attacking fraud, to name a few. The list goes on. Some of these garnered bipartisan support, while others reveal deep divisions between us in how we view the world and the role of government. So be it. I like to remind myself that my wife Elizabeth and I do not always agree either. And yet she is willing to put up with me for 25 years and 3 college boys. It has been gratifying to see the same level of respect and warmth in this house as well. Our disagreements, no matter how strident, are more often than not left in the crucible of this well, rather than be allowed to linger into personal animosity thereafter. I sincerely wish and indeed beg that long after I and the others who are parting here tonight leave, for the good of our state and its people, that this will always be so. On a more personal note, together we have shared the joys of new life and mourned the passage of loved ones. We have prayed for the sick and injured in our lives and wrapped our arms lovingly around each other when those that we treasure have marched off to far-off lands to stand guard for our liberties. Through all of this, I have been fortunate to deepen old friendships, some very old friendships, and have formed new ones. And I cherish them all. And I pray that these will all last a lifetime. From all this, I leave you with a few simple lessons that you have taught me, and I will take them with me as I step out of here, no matter where the future may lie. Number 1, listening is more important than talking. For our job in public service is not to deliver edicts from the Gold Dome, but to take the wisdom of our communities to the proverbial table where decisions are made. Number 2, we must always remember to keep our friends permanent and our opponents temporary. For our biggest rival today may be our closest ally tomorrow. Number 3, there is always someone smarter in the room than you are. And if you can't identify them, you're just not paying attention. Number 4, standing up to our enemies may take guts, but sometimes to get the job done, it takes far more courage to stand up to our friends. Number 5, in politics, there are no permanent victories or defeats. I believe the speaker can attest to that. There is only constant movement. So to borrow an often overused phrase, lead, follow, or get out of the way. Number 6, perhaps the most important, a warm, embracing sense of humor goes farther than a sharp wit. And lastly, timing is everything, especially in recognizing when to step off the stage. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, in keeping with this last lesson, for the last time I yield the well in this, the people's house, and leave you with this simple prayer. May the peace of the Lord be with you in our great state. For the last time, Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well.
All right, we have an announcement. Let me announce to you that the Sergeant at Arms has asked that you please clean out all personal items from your desk tonight before you leave. And don't leave anything in your desk, any of your personal items. They'll be cleaned out immediately upon adjournment. So clean out your desk tonight. We'll have some other announcements later on. We're about to take another short break, and it's Chair's intention and hope that it'll be our final break of the evening. Chair recognizes the Chairman of the House Rules Committee for an announcement. Chairman Meadows.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just because he said get your personal items out don't mean you're going home. There will be a Rules Committee meeting at 9:30.
This House will be in recess until 9:40. 9:40.